Welcome to the 700 Club. Cautiously optimistic. That's how pro-lifers are feeling after yesterday's Supreme Court hearing. Conservative justices indicated they might let a Mississippi law stand that restricts abortion after 15 weeks.
Well, the big question is, will they go a step further and strike down Roe v. Wade altogether? Heather Sells reports on the arguments inside the courtroom and the protests outside.
Almost 50 years after the Supreme Court legalized abortion, its new conservative majority is showing signs it will possibly allow the states to ban abortion much earlier in a pregnancy. And it may go even further.
A right to abortion is not grounded in the text, and it's grounded on abstract concepts.
Mississippi Solicitor General Scott Stewart defended his state's 15-week ban and argued that Roe has no basis in the Constitution, as did Justice Clarence Thomas.
If we were talking about the Second Amendment, I know exactly what we're talking about. If we're talking about the Fourth Amendment, I know what we're talking about because it's written, it's there. What specifically is the right here that we're talking about?
Stewart told the justices that the states, not the high court, should decide.
You're arguing that the Constitution's silent and therefore neutral on the question of abortion. In other words, that the Constitution's neither pro-life nor pro-choice on the question of abortion, but leaves the issue for the people of the states or perhaps Congress to resolve in the democratic process. Is that accurate?
Right. We're saying it's left to the people, Your Honor.
The lawyer defending Mississippi's abortion clinic told the court that it must protect women's liberty and argued that women have come to rely on abortion.
We tried to emphasize just how important the right has been to women's ability to pursue a profession, to their health, to their lives.
And the liberal justices warned that if the court reverses Roe, it will face losing the public's trust.
Will this institution survive the stench that this creates in the public perception that the Constitution and its reading are just political acts?
What do we fight for, women and girls?
Outside the court, CBN's Tara Mergener spoke with worried abortion activists and upbeat pro-lifers.
Protesters on both sides started gathering here in front of the Supreme Court before sunrise as justices consider a case that could fundamentally change abortion law in this country.
This is a historical moment for the pro-life movement.
This case means a lot of danger for a lot of people.
Not even the experts are sure just how the court will rule.
It is hard to read the tea leaves, even as a constitutional attorney.
But after hearing the justices on Wednesday, there's a growing sense on both sides that change is coming.
I am optimistic that Roe will be overturned. You know, whether it's in this case or the next case or even the one after, we are making headway, and that's what's most important.
While Justice Roberts could be the one to hold back a sweeping ruling, both sides are preparing for the justices to overturn Roe. That would turn the issue over to the states, creating a new debate and perhaps a new sense of urgency around helping pregnant women and new moms. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, to those who say that a ruling overturning Roe will somehow create a stench and will the Supreme Court be able to survive, I would like to point out the stench was originally created when the Supreme Court legislated from the bench and created rights that did not exist under the Constitution. That is our social contract, that here are the rights of the people that the government cannot abridge. And if people want different rights or different things, number one, it's reserved to the states to do that. And then it's reserved to the legislative branch, the Congress, the Senate, to change things that have such a profound impact on our culture. The politicization of the court happened 50 years ago. Before that, yes, were there controversial decisions? You can point to a lot of them. But the whole drive to overturn Roe as a political action point happened because of Roe. And when you remove Roe, you actually depoliticize the court and you take it to where it should belong. It should belong in the Congress, in the Senate, and then in the state legislatures. That's the constitutional system. And if you need to be educated on that, well, then good grief. What Do you not understand when you start doing these things by unelected judges, you create outrage in the culture? Anyway, I think I could go on for a long time on this one. I won't. We'll see. A lot of court watching and even experienced court watchers are saying we can't read this. Regardless of the questioning from the justices, what the outcome will be, we won't know until we can actually read the opinion. In other news, former Vice President Mike Pence has high hopes that the Dobbs case could help reverse Roe versus Wade. But who's the one Supreme Court justice that causes him concern? Mark Martin has more on that story from the CBN newsroom.
Gordon, in an exclusive interview with CBN News, the former vice president expressed confidence that the Supreme Court might very well overturn Roe versus Wade. He also defended his decision to certify the 2020 election on January 6th, saying he relied on the Bible as his guide that day. CBN's chief political analyst David Brody has the story.
For Mike Pence, the battle to reverse Roe v. Wade goes back decades to his time as a congressman.
I'm Mike Pence, I'm from Indiana, and I'm pro-life.
Now, years later, the former VP can taste a possible victory.
Mr. Vice President, great to see you again, sir.
Great to see you, David. Thank you.
In our exclusive interview, Pence believes the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health case, now in the hands of the High Court, could finally help reverse the landmark 1973 decision legalizing abortion. He thinks the Chief Justice, who has been a thorn in the side to conservatives, might even come on board as well.
You and I have talked about this before, the disappointment. Those are your words about John Roberts, that he has been a disappointment. How concerned, how worried are you about him?
Well, I have been disappointed in the Chief Justice from time to time. But on the issue of life, he's shown some consistency that gives me hope that there's a possibility that the Chief Justice could join the 5 members of the conservative majority on the Supreme Court to give us a fresh start for life.
But since he and Donald Trump left office, they have seen a total reversal of their pro-life agenda.
Joe Biden is leading the most pro-abortion administration in American history, which sadly follows the most pro-life administration in American history.
Since Pence left office, he's been under criticism by a segment of Trump supporters for his role in certifying the 2020 election results on January 6th.
People have called you a traitor. I need you to respond to these folks because this is a consistent thing that I hear every single day.
On January 6th, I said that I believe there were irregularities about which I was concerned. And I wanted them to have a fair hearing before the Congress. But from the founding of this nation forward, it's been well established that elections are to be governed at the state level. And that the only role the Congress has is to open and count the electoral votes that are submitted by states across the country. No more and no less than that. And you know, in January of 2017, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. The Bible says in Psalm 15 that he keeps his oath even when it hurts. And on that day, I could relate to that sentiment. But I wanted to keep my oath to the Constitution. I don't know if President Trump and I will ever see eye to eye on that day, or that many of our most ardent supporters will agree with my decision that day. But I know I did the right thing.
So what about his next decision regarding the future? Mike Pence travels to New Hampshire this month, which fuels speculation of a presidential run. But what if Donald Trump enters the race?
You know, David, you and I have known each other a long time.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that for right now, my focus is entirely on doing everything in my power to support the conservative cause and win back the Congress and state houses all across this country in 2022. We'll let the future take care of itself after that, and I promise to keep you posted.
Mike Pence taking it one day at a time, and right now, winning on the life issue at the Supreme Court is the top priority. David Brody, CBN News.
To the coronavirus crisis in America, the first confirmed U.S. case of the OMICRON variant has been found in California. A traveler returning from San Francisco from South Africa showed mild symptoms. Officials report the person had been fully vaccinated but is not yet eligible for a booster and is now recovering. This as President Biden announced a strategy for fighting the virus this winter, including extending mask requirements on public transit until March 18th. Increased access to testing and tightening regulations on all international travelers. Gordon, back to you.
Well, CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson is here to tell us more about the variant. So, Lori, the traveler had mild symptoms. Is that what we can expect?
Well, as Mark just pointed out, Gordon, this traveler who came to San Francisco from South Africa had already been double vaccinated and was not yet eligible for a booster, which indicates this person probably has a lot of antibodies and may even be young and healthy, because many people who were older and sicker got their vaccinations a long time ago and have been eligible for boosters for a long time. Also in South Africa, where the majority of cases have been identified, health officials there say most of those people are young. The population in South Africa is very young, under 40, they're reporting, and also many of them have immunity, having had coronavirus before, and some of them were vaccinated. So the question is, what about people who have no immunity, and what about people who are older and sicker? We likely won't find out about Omicron's impact on those people for a couple of weeks now.
Is that why the CDC is recommending that if you're over 60, you should not travel? That this virus seems to be able to break through any vaccine. So we've already had one case reported in the U.S., that traveler, vaccinated, still got the virus. Is that why CDC is saying if you're over 60, if you're in an at-risk group, is the best thing for you right now is not to travel at all?
Well, actually, yesterday, the White House came out and made an announcement and said if you are fully vaccinated, you can gather inside with other people who are fully vaccinated. And some doctors say, add on to that and say people who are immune from natural immunity, having recovered from it. But if there is no immunity, to still take those same precautions. Right now, the health centers all across the country are testing whether the vaccines are being effective against the Omicron variant. They're growing the actual virus and using synthetic versions, and that takes a little while. So until then, health officials are saying if you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, get your vaccine. If you're eligible for a booster, go ahead and get that booster, and we'll have some information forthcoming. Right now, Gordon, only about 200 cases have been identified, so we're still working with a very few number.
You got a prediction on when we'll know whether either natural immunity or vaccination will protect against this variant? Are we talking weeks or months?
Yeah, they're saying in a couple of weeks they should know, because they're actually taking blood from people who have been fully vaccinated and then putting the vaccine in that blood in a lab and seeing if the antibodies in that blood neutralize the variant, the Omicron variant, the virus. So that'll take a couple of weeks, and so we should have some information. Right now, though, people are very optimistic, because, as you mentioned, the cases that we've seen so far have been pretty mild. And so we can hope and pray that that's going to be the trend moving forward.
All right. Well, Lori, thanks for the information. And I know you'll keep us posted.
Absolutely.